Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name is Bob, I'll be your host. One thing that you can come to expect in game companies is that they keep a pretty consistent system for their games, such as the World of Darkness system, the D20 system, and so forth. And Palladium Games is no stranger to this. They have their own system, and it's interchangeable and is used through all their games, so making all their games really compatible. And you really don't see much deviation. But there is one game that does have a deviation in a way from those rules, in that it simplifies them. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to talk about the Mechanoids. This book has 149 pages and a copyright of 1985. It was published by Palladium Books, and all the artwork in this book is in black and white. So let's go ahead and look at that artwork. All of the artwork in this book is in black and white. The first pictures you see when you open this book is a one-page comic depicting the arrival of the Mechanoids. The artwork is pretty good for the most part, and gives you a good look at the things you will find in this game. To play this game, what you're going to need is a copy of this core rulebook and a full set of dice. A full set of dice containing a 20-sided die, a 12-sided die, preferably two 10-sided dice for rolling both percentiles and tens, an 8-sided die, a 6-sided die, and a 4-sided die. This book is pretty cool. It's one of the Palladium Books' older works, but it was printed new enough so that you get a mention in the back of the book that it is compatible with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness and Heroes Unlimited and the Palladium Fantasy role-playing game. The character generation in this game is pretty much standard throughout all Palladium games. And it's got its little bit of variant, and we'll get to that. The attributes are the standard for all Palladium games. You have intelligence quotient, mental endurance, mental affinity, physical strength, physical prowess, physical endurance, physical beauty, and speed. And the way you determine these is you roll 3 6-sided dice, add them together, put them in an attribute, and then do the same for each attribute. However, when you add your dice together, if you have a 16, 17, or 18, it is considered an exceptional attribute, and you get to roll a 4th 6-sided die and add that to your total to get a really exceptional attribute, which is pretty cool. So your character is either really good or he's not. After that, you determine your hit points. Hit points in this game are pretty easy. All the classes in this game have the same hit points. Hit points are determined at first level by adding your physical endurance with a d6 roll. And every time you attain a level after that, you get to add 1d6 to your hit points. Another thing this game kind of has, that all Palladium games has, is SDC. SDC stands for Structural Damage Capacity. And usually each class in a Palladium game gets its own SDC as well as hit points. And this SDC, all those points have to be damaged before damage to your hit points take place. And it represents small damage, cuts and bruises, scrapes, sprains, so forth, before the real damage, which is the hit points, takes place, which is your internal bleeding, smashed bones, and so forth. And it says all living creatures, as well as non-living creatures, non-living things, get SDC. But for the life of me, I cannot find the SDC for the OCCs in this. So instead, that's one variant in this game. In order for your character to have an SDC rating, you have to get armor. And we'll talk about armor here in a bit. So that's different. After you get your hit points figured out, though, you determine whether your character is psionic or not. And for that, you just roll a percentile, and that'll determine whether your character is psionic or not, and to what degree psionic your character is. After that, you're going to want to pick an alignment. There are 3 core alignments in Palladium Games, and that is good, selfish, and evil. They don't have a neutral alignment. Neutral is replaced with selfish. And each of these alignments are broken up into smaller bits. For good, you have principled and scrupulous. For selfish, you have unprincipled and anarchist. For evil, you have miscreant, aberrant, and diabolic. Which is pretty cool. But don't let the evil alignment fool you. In some of Palladium Games' other publishings, there are actual hero characters that have the evil aberrant alignment. So there's that to bear in mind. After that, you're going to want to pick your OCC, or occupational character class. All the classes in Palladium Games are called occupational character classes. And in this game, you have human classes, which are the Esper, the communications engineer, the pilot air vehicle mechanic, the pilot ground vehicle mechanic, and the field scientist. You have your men-at-arms, which are your LBA division, or light battle armor division, your EBA division, or your environmental armor division, and then you have your commando. After that, you have rovers, and the rovers are thieves, warriors, and espers. And that's pretty much it for character creation. This game has everything you need to play the game. It's got a section on skills, and in this, skills are a little different than other Palladium games in that it's a much smaller skill list, a lot fewer skills. But the skills work exactly the same as in other Palladium games. Each skill you have has a percentile to it, and to accomplish that skill, you roll a percentile die, and if your roll is equal to or less than the percentile that you have written with the skill, you succeed. Anything over your percentile is a failure. Skills can only go up to 98% because there's always a room for failure, according to the rules. And then there's a section on psionics, which gives you a listing of all the psionics your character can get. There's a chapter on equipment, and that's pretty cool. It's got a lot of stuff for you to use. And it's got a section in here talking about the planet you're on. The planet you're on is called Gideon E. And it gives a history of how the planet was discovered by an explorer named Gideon, and how the humans colonized the planet, even though it already had an intelligent population to begin with, which were the rovers. So you develop this kind of Old West vibe where the new settlers have come in and are trying to force the original occupants out. And so they fight each other. And they've come to a point where they kind of have a peace going. But then the Mechanoids showed up. And the Mechanoids are there to wipe out all other life. And so they've had to band together to help fight the Mechanoids, which is kind of nifty. And that's your basic plot to the whole game. It follows, for combat, the standard rules for Palladium Games, in which to attack someone, you roll a d20, and on a roll of 1, 2, 3, or 4, you miss, but a roll of 5 or better, you hit. And this is where we come into the weird part, as far as this game goes. When you have armor, your armor has an AR rating, an armor rating, and that becomes the new number that they had to hit to do damage to your character. So if you have an AR of 12, then on a 20-sided die, they have to roll a 12 or better in order to do damage to your character. However, if they roll a 5 or better, but still under your armor rating, they still hit you, but the damage is done to your armor. To your armor. And once your armor is destroyed, all damage is done to you. And this is where it's different from other Palladium games. Apparently, in order to have an SDC, you have to wear armor. And I don't know why that is in this game, but it is. Now they had a later edition of the game, a newer edition. They probably changed that in there. But in this version, that's pretty much how it is. And that's really about it for this game. It's kind of a scaled down version of what you'd find in other Palladium games, which makes character creation a lot faster, which is kind of nifty. It's got a character sheet in the back that you can photocopy and use. And that's pretty much it. Which brings me to 3 questions. Would I play a character in this game? Most likely. I'm a sucker for old science fiction games, so I'd probably play if given the chance. Would I run this game? Again, I'd have to say, yeah, if I had a group of players that were interested in playing, I'd probably run it. Would I recommend this game? Partially. If you got the newer version, I'd probably go with that, because it's probably got the standard rules of Palladium that everybody is more used to. I don't have that one, but I got this one. However, if you want to play a more scaled down version of the Palladium rules with what appears to be a quicker character creation process, this would definitely be worth checking out, especially if you're interested in that kind of thing for a Palladium game. And that's pretty much all I got to say for the Mechanoids right now. Thank you for joining me at a look at this game, and hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.